The first time they framed Samuel Reed, he died in prison. The second time they used my badge. At 8:07 on a Monday morning, Prosecutor Gavin Mercer stood beneath the courthouse seal and told 6 news cameras that I had broken into a sealed archive, altered evidence, and tried to rewrite an 18-year-old murder case. 2 deputies removed my keys while he spoke. I had guarded that basement for 9 years. I knew every shelf, every lock, every box that smelled of dust and old paper. I also knew the file in Mercer's hands had not looked like that the night before. Its original label read, State, Phyllis Adrian Cole. Now it read, State, Phyllis Samuel Reed, the courthouse janitor who had spent his last 18 years insisting the wrong man had been protected. Mercer raised an access report for the cameras. Mr. Hale's badge opened the sealed archive at 12:41 a.m. That was true. The impossible part was that I had been upstairs at 12:41, signing for a delivery in front of 2 witnesses and a lobby camera. Then Mercer showed security footage of someone wearing my uniform carrying the murder file between the shelves. The man's face was hidden. My badge number was perfectly visible. "The record is clear," Mercer said. I looked at the file in his hands and smelled fresh printer toner beneath the courthouse dust. That label had been made that morning. I stepped toward him. "Ask your clerk when it was printed." Mercer's smile vanished. Before he could answer, the elevator doors opened. A records clerk rushed into the lobby carrying another sealed evidence box. Her hands were shaking. "Mr. Mercer," she said, "we found this behind the old shelving." She placed it beside the first file. The second label also read, State vs. Samuel Reed. Both boxes carried official seals. Both seals carried my badge number, and one of those files contained a statement from a witness who had been dead for 12 years. The dead witness was named Clara Voss. According to the news statement, she had seen Samuel Reed leaving the parking garage at 9:22 that night. According to the county death index, Clara had been buried 12 years before the murder. No one in the lobby noticed until I said it aloud. Mercer closed the file before the cameras could move closer. "Archive corruption can produce clerical anomalies," he said. "A dead woman signing a witness statement isn't a clerical anomaly." One deputy tightened his grip on my arm. Mercer told the reporters the building was now part of an active investigation, then ordered both boxes taken upstairs. Not back to the archive, to his office. That was when I understood the accusation wasn't meant to solve anything. It was meant to remove the only person who knew where the original file had been stored. They escorted me through the same courthouse where I'd worked nights for 9 years. Clerks avoided my eyes. A bailiff I had helped through a heart attack stared at the floor as I passed. Outside, rain had turned the courthouse steps black. A reporter pushed a microphone toward me. "Did you alter the Reed file because you believed he was innocent?" "I didn't alter anything." "So you had no personal connection to him?" I almost said no. Then I remembered Samuel, not the prisoner from the newspaper photographs, the janitor who used to mop the west hallway during my first year on the job. He always carried peppermints in his shirt pocket and left one beside my coffee when the night ran long. 3 weeks before his arrest, he found me sleeping in the archive after my wife left. He never asked why. He just placed a folding chair beside the radiator and said, "A man should lose things privately when the world has already decided to watch." Samuel had dignity when everyone else treated him like background furniture. I had key, but that memory buried because remembering him made my silence feel heavier. My phone buzzed as the deputies released me at the curb. A photograph had been sent from an unknown number. It showed the inside cover of the second file. Written beneath Samuel's case number were 5 words in faded blue ink. "Marcus knows where it was." I looked back at the courthouse. Mercer was standing at an upstairs window, watching me read it. By noon, the courthouse had released a second statement. This one did name me. It said I had used personal knowledge of archive procedures to manufacture duplicate evidence boxes and insert a false witness statement into the read file. Mercer had turned the dead witness into my mistake. He also claimed I had been under review for months. That part was new. A reporter emailed me a copy of the internal warning supposedly placed in my personnel file 6 weeks earlier. It accused me of asking unusual questions about sealed cases and copying restricted labels after midnight. The signature at the bottom looked like mine. It wasn't. I signed Marcus Hale with a broken capital H. My father taught me that when I was 9. The signature on Mercer's warning was smooth, careful, and wrong. I called Human Resources. A woman named Denise lowered her voice when she found the document. "This wasn't here Friday," she said. "Can you prove that?" Her keyboard clicked. "There should be an upload history." Then she stopped. What happened? The history says I added it. You did? No. A door opened near her. Denise said much louder, "Mr. Hale, all personnel records are considered accurate unless corrected through formal review." Mercer's voice followed in the background. "Tell him the review period is 30 days. The line went dead. 10 minutes later, my bank froze the account where my courthouse checks were deposited. The county had filed a recovery claim for damaged evidence and investigative costs. They had not proven I touched the file, but they were already taking money. Then a courier arrived with a preservation order. I was forbidden from deleting messages, contacting courthouse employees, or entering any county property. Violating it could lead to obstruction charges. Mercer had built a wall around me using documents I had never seen. At the beer. Bottom of the order was a list of evidence supposedly recovered from my archive locker. A label printer, blank chain of custody seals, and a photograph of Samuel Reed's original case file. I enlarged the photograph. Behind the box, barely visible beneath my locker shelf, was a narrow strip of black fabric curled around a metal spool. I had seen it once before in the abandoned transcription room. An old stenographer ribbon, then another message arrived from the unknown number. Don't let them destroy what the typewriter remembered. The old transcription room had been sealed since the courthouse switched to digital recording. I knew one way in that did not count as a public entrance. 20 years earlier, a heating pipe had burst behind the West Archive wall. Maintenance cut a narrow service hatch through the plaster, then covered it with shelving instead of repairing the passage properly. At 11:16 that night, I parked 2 blocks away and entered through the boiler annex. The preservation order said I could not enter county property. It did not say someone else could not have left the annex door unlocked. Inside, the courthouse sounded different without people. Pipes clicked behind the walls. Rain tapped the basement windows. Somewhere above me, an elevator moved, even though the building was supposed to be empty. I reached the transcription room and found the lock already broken. Someone had searched the place. Metal drawers hung open. Old dictation belts covered the floor. Shredded carbon paper clung to my shoes. The stenographer ribbon was gone. Then I noticed a black mark on the edge of the desk. Not ink, grease. I followed 3 smeared fingerprints beneath the typewriter carriage and found a strip of ribbon no longer than my hand, trapped behind a rusted spring. Most of it looked blank. Under the desk lamp, faint impressions appeared in the fabric. Letters pressed into the ribbon years earlier. I could make out only fragments. Garage. Not Reed, Mercer said. A footstep sounded in the hallway. I killed the lamp. Light slid beneath the door, followed by the soft roll of a cart. Someone stopped outside. A key entered the lock. I slipped the ribbon fragment into my wallet and moved behind a filing cabinet as the door opened. Gavin Mercer stepped inside wearing gloves. He was not alone. Denise from Human Resources pushed the cart behind him. On it sat the second evidence, e-box and a portable shredder. She looked terrified. Mercer lifted a page from the box. "Once this is gone," he said, "Marcus becomes the only person who ever saw the other version." Denise whispered, "What if he copied it?" Mercer fed the page into the shredder. "Then we make sure no one believes where he found it." I stayed behind the cabinet while Mercer fed page after page into the shredder. Denise stood frozen beside the cart. "You said we were correcting duplicate records," she whispered. "We are. That file has original signatures." Mercer stopped the machine. "The county needs one clean version of events. Confusion helps guilty people." "And Samuel Reed?" Mercer looked at her as if she had asked about a broken chair. "Samuel is dead." My hand tightened around the ribbon fragment in my wallet. The cabinet shifted beneath my weight. Metal scraped against the floor. Mercer turned toward the sound. I ran before he reached the light switch. I hit the hallway, knocked the cart sideways, and heard the evidence box crash open behind me. Papers scattered across the tile. Mercer shouted my name. Not for security. For Denise. "Stop him!" She did not move. I reached the service hatch, crawled through the wall, and dropped into the boiler annex with dust filling my mouth. By the time I reached the alley, courthouse alarms were already ringing. My phone showed 6 missed calls from reporters and 1 new county alert. Security footage had been released, showing me entering the basement in violation of the preservation order. This time, the footage was real. By morning, a judge had signed a warrant for my arrest. My landlord placed my belongings outside. The county froze my second account. Even the public defender's office told me the evidence looked difficult to overcome. I sat in my car behind a closed grocery store, staring at the ribbon fragment under the dashboard light. 3 broken phrases were not enough to clear Samuel. They were not enough to clear me. For the first time, I considered handing it over, accepting a plea, and letting Mercer keep whatever version of the truth he had built. Then I noticed something pressed into the ribbon after the woo. "It is," Mercer said. "A date, a courtroom number, and the initials NRI. Search the old case directory on my phone. NR belonged to Nina Reed, Samuel's daughter. She had testified at a sealed hearing no public record said had ever happened." Before I could search further, someone knocked twice on my car window. A woman stood in the rain, holding an umbrella and an old carbon copy against the glass. "My father told me you'd come looking," she said. Nina Reed opened the passenger door and slid into the seat before I could answer. Up close, she looked nothing like the courtroom photograph I found online. No polished suit, no careful smile, just rain in her hair, a split thumbnail, and the exhausted focus of someone who had spent years being told the same lie. "You're Marcus Hale," she said, "and you've been sending the messages." She placed the carbon copy between us. "I sent 2. The photograph came from someone inside the courthouse." The page was thin enough to see the dashboard light through it. Across the top, in faded blue type, were the words, "Sealed Supplemental Hearing." Nina's name appeared beneath them. "I was 16, she said. "They brought me into courtroom 6 after my father's conviction. No attorney, no public docket. Mercer asked whether my father had ever mentioned a recorder." "What did you tell him?" "That Samuel found one in the garage and gave it to a clerk." "Which clerk?" "Lena Voss, the woman who was killed." The rain struck the roof harder. Nina pointed to the lower half of the carbon copy. Her original answer was still visible beneath a darker replacement line. The top version said Samuel kept the recorder. The impression underneath said he surrendered it. "They changed your testimony. They erased the hearing." She reached into her coat and removed a small brass key stamped with the number 6. "My father mailed this from prison 3 days before he died. He wrote one sentence with it." She handed me the envelope. Courtroom 6 remembers what the file forgot. A patrol car turned into the parking lot.
Nina ducked below the window. "They're tracking your phone," she said. I powered it off, but the patrol car kept coming. Then its headlights flashed twice. The driver's door opened. Denise stepped out, pale and shaking, carrying the second evidence box against her chest. Nina stared at her. "Is she with Mercer?" "I don't know." Denise crossed the wet pavement and stopped beside my window. "I copied the upload history before he deleted it," she said. "But that isn't the worst part." She looked at Nina. "Your father's case wasn't the first one he changed." Then she opened the box. Inside were 17 courthouse files, each carrying a different innocent person's name. 17 files filled the back seat. Each belonged to someone convicted, fired or blamed after an incident tied to the courthouse. A bailiff accused of losing evidence. A clerk blamed for a missing warrant. A maintenance worker charged with theft. Different years. Same sentence in every report. Employee access confirmed by electronic record. Denise spread the upload histories across the dashboard. Mercer used inactive employee accounts, she said. Retired people, dead people, anyone who couldn't challenge the login. Nina tapped a column of numbers. Can those be changed? Not these. Printer authorization codes. Every altered page had come from the same machine in Mercer's records room. I checked the freight elevator log. Within 6 minutes of each revision, it travelled from Mercer's floor to the archive. 17 files, 17 midnight trips. Then Nina found the contradiction he could not explain. A witness statement in Samuel's file was stamped at 11:48 p.m. The access record showed the witness leaving at 9:10. Her parking receipt placed her outside town before 11. She couldn't have signed this, Nina said. She didn't. The signature had been copied from another page. Beneath the replacement text, a pressure mark remained. I laid the ribbon fragment across it. The broken letters aligned, not read. Mercer said, "Hold the recorder." For 18 years, the typewriter had kept the sentence the file was built to bury. A chirp came from the patrol radio. Denise went pale. That channel was off. Mercer's voice filled the car. "Denise, step away from Marcus and leave the box." Headlights appeared at both ends of the parking lot. Nina gripped the brass key. Courtroom 6. If they erased my hearing, the original audio may still be there. A county sedan blocked the exit. Mercer stepped into the rain as 2 deputies moved toward us. Ennis shifted into reverse. "Then we stop arguing with his records," she said, "and find the room he tried to erase." Denise slammed the cruiser into reverse. Mercer jumped aside as the rear bumper struck a trash barrier and spun the car toward the courthouse loading ramp. One deputy shouted for us to stop. The other lowered his hand from his holster when he saw the evidence boxes piled behind Nina. "He knows what's in here," Denise said. "That's why he needs us arrested before anyone else sees it." We abandoned the car beneath the jury entrance and ran upstairs. Courtroom 6 was not empty. Mercer had scheduled an emergency hearing to revoke my bond before I even knew a warrant existed. Reporters filled the back benches. County attorneys stood around the clerk's table. A judge was already reading the accusation into the record. Then the side door opened, and the 3 of us walked in, carrying 17 files. Every camera turned. Mercer entered seconds later, soaked from the rain. "Your Honor, these individuals are in possession of stolen county property. I placed the files on the evidence table. Then let the county explain them." The judge ordered everyone to remain where they were. Denise connected her laptop to the courtroom display. One by one, she showed the upload times, printer codes, and midnight elevator trips. Every revision led back to Mercer's office. He did not deny the numbers. He attacked the people. Denise was confused. Nina was emotionally compromised. I was retaliating against lawful discipline. Nina stepped forward and placed her carbon copy beneath the document camera. "My testimony says my father surrendered the recorder," she said. "The official file says he kept it. Which version did I give under oath?" Mercer looked toward the judge. "That page has no verified origin." Nina raised the brass key. It came from the hearing.
Your docket says never happened. She crossed to the witness stand and inserted the key into a narrow panel B. Beneath the microphone, a hidden compartment clicked open. Inside sat a dust-covered audio cartridge marked Read Supplemental, Courtroom 6. Mercer moved first. He lunged across the clerk's table, but the deputy nearest him caught his arm. The judge stared at the cartridge. Play it. The speakers crackled. A 16-year-old Nina began to speak. Then Mercer's younger voice interrupted her. Strike that answer. We need the father holding the recorder. The courtroom went completely still. On the recording, 16-year-old Nina tried to correct Mercer. My father gave the recorder to Lena Voss. He didn't keep it. Mercer's younger voice answered, That is not what you remembered. It is exactly what I remembered. A chair scraped across the old audio. Then another man said, Remove the girl. We'll prepare a clean statement. Nina closed her eyes as her younger self was escorted from the room. The cartridge should have ended there. It didn't. Someone had left the courtroom microphone running. Mercer waited until the door shut, then spoke to a detective named Paul Danner. Did you recover Lena's recorder? Yes. It captured her argument with Adrian in the garage. The reporters behind us shifted forward. Danner continued. You can hear Adrian threaten her. Then there's a struggle and the impact. Mercer's voice dropped. My brother cannot appear anywhere in that file. What about Samuel Reed? His access card places him in the building. Use that. He was cleaning the east wing. Then change the time. Nina gripped the edge of the witness stand. The audio carried on as they planned the case line by line. Move the garage entry, copy a witness signature, claim Samuel kept the recorder, and seal Nina's hearing before a defense attorney could request it. Mercer stared at the speakers as his own voice dismantled 18 years of official history. Then the final exchange played. Danner asked, What happens if the original recorder turns up? Mercer answered, It won't. Lena hid one copy, but we searched her desk. I looked at the ribbon fragment in my hand. Court reporters did not store backup dictation in their desks. They stored it with their transcription materials. The faded words on the ribbon were not Nina's testimony. They were Lena's final notes. I placed the fragment beneath the document camera. The pressed letters completed the sentence. Adrian Cole admitted he followed me. Gavin Mercer told him the record could be fixed. Mercer rose. That proves nothing. The courtroom door opened behind him. An evidence technician entered carrying a sealed recorder recovered from the abandoned transcription wall. We found this 20 minutes ago, she said. The serial number matches the device removed from Lena Voss's case. The judge looked at the deputies. Mr. Mercer is not leaving this room. The recovered recorder was played before anyone left the courtroom. Lena Voss's voice came through first, quiet and controlled. She told Adrian Cole to stop following her. He laughed and said his brother could make complaints disappear. Then Gavin Mercer entered the garage and told Lena to hand over the recording. She refused. The audio captured a struggle, Lena calling for help, and Adrian's panicked voice after she fell. Then Mercer said, Samuel's card was used downstairs. We can build it around him. No one in the courtroom moved when the recording ended. The judge ordered Mercer taken into custody and referred every altered case to an independent review panel. Adrian Cole was arrested later that afternoon. But Samuel's name was still printed beneath a murder conviction. Nina stood beside me outside the courtroom while reporters crowded the hallway. They heard the truth, I said. That isn't the same as correcting it. She was right. For 18 years, Samuel had existed in public records as a killer. One hearing could expose the lie, but only a formal order could return his name. The review began that evening. Denise opened the county's protected audit server while 2 independent technicians watched. They found every deleted draft, every copied signature, and every time Mercer used a dormant account to revise a case. The 17 files became 23. Some victims were still alive. Others had died without knowing anyone would reopen what happened to them. At midnight, the clerk placed Samuel Reed's original file on the courtroom table. The old label had been found beneath 3 newer ones. State for Adrian Cole. Mercer had covered it, but he had never managed to remove it. The judge compared the recorder, Nina's carbon copy, Lena's ribbon, and the digital revision history. Then she signed an emergency order vacating Samuel's convictee.
Nina read the first page without speaking. When she reached the line declaring her father wrongfully accused, her hands began to shake. A clerk asked whether she wanted a moment before facing the cameras. Nina closed the file. "No," she said. "He already waited 18 years. The courthouse doors opened. Outside, dozens of families were holding photographs of people named in the altered records, and every camera was waiting for Nina to tell them what the courthouse had done. Nina stepped onto the courthouse stairs with Samuel's corrected file pressed against her chest. The shouting stopped when she opened it. "My father died with the county calling him a murderer," she said. Tonight, that same county signed an order admitting he was innocent. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. Behind her, the clerk posted Samuel's exoneration on the public docket. His conviction disappeared from the active record. In its place appeared a finding of wrongful prosecution and deliberate evidence manipulation. Then the other families began moving forward. One carried a photograph of the bailiff blamed for missing evidence. Another held the termination letter of a clerk accused of deleting a warrant. Denise handed each family the number of the newly opened review connected to their case. The courthouse had spent years treating them like isolated mistakes. Now the records showed a pattern no one could dismiss. My own charges were withdrawn before sunrise. The county restored my position, released my accounts, and removed every false warning from my personnel file. They offered me a private apology. I refused it. If the accusation was public, I said, the correction should be public too. By noon, my cleared record appeared beside Samuel's order on the courthouse website. Mercer and Adrian faced criminal proceedings based on evidence that could no longer be rewritten. Independent archivists took control of the basement, and no sealed file could be changed without 2 witnesses, a paper copy, and an external audit. Weeks later, I returned to the archive. Shelf C19 had been repaired. Samuel's file sat inside a new preservation box, but Nina had asked that one thing remain untouched. The original label was still there beneath the replacements. State v. Adrian Cole. Beside it rested Lena's ribbon, sealed behind glass. Nina Joy neared me at the shelf and placed 1 peppermint on top of her father's file. "He used to give these away," she said. "I remember." For a moment, neither of us moved. Then I switched off the archive lights and locked the door. They changed Samuel Reed's name in the file for 18 years. 1 forgotten ribbon put it back.